31 movement Jo kata has been preserved exactly as the founder taught it. Since the content of the kata was quite difficult, we would practice it in the form of 31 movements. Little by little, without our realizing it, the movements evolved into the 31 movement Jo kata. I would like to perform the 31 movement kata now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. I'll now explain. I have seen by looking at various films and books that a number of people are studying the Jo. However, very few people understand these weapons. Today, in this video, I would like to explain in detail the foot movements and other detailed aspects of the kata. One important point to keep in mind is that in the kata, you begin and end in exactly the same position. Thus, there are some differences compared to the kumijo or paired Jo movements. I will explain these differences when we present the kumijo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. In order to learn the kata, we have broken it down into component parts. There are some places where these movements differ when applied in the kumijo. For example, 15, 16, 20, 21, 25, and 26. The two movements become one. I'll show these now. I'll explain 15 and 16. In the kata, the 15th and 16th movements are executed like this. In the kumijo, they become one movement. 20 and 21 are executed in this manner. The two separate movements in the kata become one movement in the kumijo. Also, 25 and 26 are two separate movements in the kata, but become one movement in the kumijo. For training purposes, we practice 31 movements. The reason is that it's difficult to learn the movements otherwise. The kumijo movements are rapid. O-sensei disliked the 1-2-3 approach to training. There is no such thing as 1-2-3 practice in martial arts, he would say. However, this approach is the only one which will work when training with a large number of people. That was the reason for the development of the 31 movement kata. The kumijo are different. Please keep this distinction in mind. The founder taught the 31 jo movements for beginners. In addition, he also left many other jo kata. However, since they were very difficult, I broke them down into parts in order to be able to learn them and created the 20 suburi movements. I organized them in such a manner so as to allow training in groups. I'd like to perform the 20 suburi. First, the 5 tsuki or thrusting movements. Choku zuki. Kaeshi zuki. Ushiro tsuki. Variations from the thrusting position. Tsuki gedan gaeshi. Tsuki jodan gaeshi uchi. The 5 striking movements. Shoumenuchi uchikomi. Renzoku uchikomi. Menuchi gedan gaeshi. Menuchi ushiro tsuki. Gyaku yokomen ushiro tsuki. The 3 katate movements. Katate gedan gaeshi. Katate to mawashi. Katate hachiji no ji gaeshi. The 5 hasso or figure 8 movements. Hasso gaeshi uchi. Hasso gaeshi tsuki. Hasso gaeshi ushiro tsuki. Hasso gaeshi ushiro uchi. Hasso gaeshi ushiro barai. The 2 variations of nagare gaeshi. Hidari nagare gaeshi uchi. Migi nagare gaeshi tsuki. 直好き、返し好き、後ろつき、月下段返し、月上段返し打ち、正面打ち込み、連続打ち込み、面打ち下段返し、面打ち後ろつき、逆横面後ろつき、片手下段返し、片手遠回し、片手八の字返し、八層返し打ち、八層返しつき、八層返し後ろつき、八層返し後ろ打ち、八層返し後ろ払い、左流れ返し打ち、右流れ返しつき、Since we cannot modify the 31 Jo movements left by the founder, we've developed paired Jo exercises based on the kata. There are many possible variations, and I would like to go through and analyze them step by step. From 1 to 3. 1, 2, 3. Let me explain this. When he comes with a straight thrust, I shift my body to the left and execute kaishitsuki. He parries before my kaishitsuki reaches his chest. Then, for 2, he attacks with chokuzuki, and I step off to the right to receive his jo. Then I parry the jo downward and thrust. The founder said you could either press down his jo or attack his arm and thrust. He said that whichever you do, you should be careful to avoid injury in the basic practice. There's a potential problem here. If your right arm raises too high, you will draw his jo in towards you. This is dangerous. We lower the right arm and deflect his jo downward. The action is executed through the movement of the right hand, and then we thrust. I'll do it once again. 1, 2, 3. Now I'll explain movements 4 through 6. Starting from the number 3 position, 4, 5, 6. Let me explain this. We parry the tsuki and strike to the side of his head, and he steps backwards to parry the jo. Then he takes 1 step forward and executes a reverse strike. We avoid his strike by shifting to the left and strike his forehead. At this point, there are a number of possible variations for him, although the number of movements does not change. Now he will finish with a left thrust. 4, 5, 6. Now we will show another variation. 4, 5, 6. Now, these 2 sequences of 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6 will be combined in a single series. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, skipping over 7 and 8, we'll execute 9 through 11. 7, 8, from here. 9, 10, 11. Let me explain these. From 6 to 8, I attack in the rear direction while he steps forward from behind. Then I sweep backward to execute movement 9, drawing my leg to the rear. He comes to strike my head. At this point, I execute movement 10, striking him at the wrist. Then we finish the sequence with movement 11, executing a decisive strike. Now we'll execute 1 through 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now from 13 to 17. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'll explain this. First, it is important for him not to parry my thrust using his left hand in this manner. This is incorrect. The right way is to parry using the right hand and assume a ready stance. Then the 15th and 16th movements become a single movement. 13, 14, 15, 16 become a single movement. I'll now execute 18 through 22. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Let me explain these. We strike down the thrust to the side, releasing our right hand and using our left hand. Then we execute the lower thrust, or gedansuki. Then we execute gedansuki. At this point, movement 20 and 21 become a single movement. As he raises his jo, we execute a thrust to the pit of the stomach. Now we'll execute movements 13 to 22 as a series. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Now we'll perform movements 22 through 27. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. We completed the last series with number 22. When we begin the series starting with 22, he avoids my number 22 thrusting movement and he executes an upward thrust. 22, 23, and 25, 26 become single movements. Now from 27 to 31. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Now from 13 through 31. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. One through three. 1, 2, 3. 4 through 6. 4, 5, 6. 9 through 11. 9, 10, 11. 13 through 17. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 18 through 22. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 13 through 22. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 22 through 27. 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 13 through 27. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. 27 through 31. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. 13 through 31. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. I would like to explain the 10 Kumijo. O-sensei bequeathed to us the 31 movement kata and many other Jo movements. However, I did not learn complete Kumijo practices. He would teach me partial movements from time to time. I combined them into Kumijo for demonstration purposes. I devised 7 Kumijo. Then, in 1983, I received the Budo Johosho Award, and I had to give a demonstration at the Budokan. Therefore, I devised an additional 3 Kumijo, 8, 9, and 10, and thus there are now a total of 10 Kumijo. I will explain the first Kumijo. I thrust at him with Kaishi Tsuki from the left. He parries my Jo and then comes to attack me again. I receive his Jo and then attack him with Hayai Gaeshi. He receives my Jo stepping backwards. At this point, if he receives my Jo from the wrong angle, he will injure his hand. Now, a wrong example, my Jo slips down. If he withdraws one large step to the rear with his left leg, this too is dangerous. Unless he draws one step back and receives the Jo at a right angle, he will get injured. Now, if I don't turn my body fast enough, he can attack my elbow. When I raise my Jo, my feet must move at the same time. Then I strike his head. If your left leg doesn't move fast enough, you could receive a serious injury, so please be careful. I'll do it again. This posture. Note the position of this leg. I'll explain the second Kumijo. I'll explain. In this case, he should aim at the neck. However, since it is dangerous to do so, he should aim at a little below the neck. This is important in order to avoid injury. I parry. I parry his thrust, drawing one step diagonally to the rear. Then I thrust at his chest, stepping forward with my right leg. He now comes to attack my leg. I receive his jo by twisting my body. He comes to execute a thrust. I step to the left and thrust at his side. I'll do it again. The third Kumijo. I'll explain the third Kumijo. He comes to attack with the Gedan Uchi. I hold my jo with my right hand and step off one step to receive his jo. He comes to attack my side. I twist my body and change my hand to hold the jo with the right hand and strike his jo down. I attack his side. He receives this. I do not resist his jo, but execute Nidansuki from below. The fourth Kumijo. I will explain the fourth Kumijo. I dodge his chokuzuki, taking a large step to the rear. There is too much distance between us to execute Kaishi Uchi. Therefore, I execute To Mauchi, passing over the shoulder. He will step back to avoid my attack. You should take a large step back so as to avoid injury at this point. Even if my jo reaches him, he should assume a defensive stance with his jo. My jo flows in this manner. At this point, you should hold the jo, placing your hand facing downward. If you place your hand above the jo when you receive his attack, you will injure yourself. Please be very careful. He comes to thrust at me. I take a large step to the left to attack him. Here, the position of the left leg is important. If you don't move your left leg sufficiently, you'll end up in this stance. If you take a large step with your left foot here like this, you'll be sufficiently far enough away. The fifth Kumijo. I will explain the fifth Kumijo. He comes to thrust me. I parry his jo and return a thrust. He withdraws diagonally to the right and assumes a katate gedangaeshi stance. He attacks me with a katate gedangaeshi. I take a large step backward with my left foot, assuming this stance. At this point, his way of finishing the Gedan Kaeshi Uchi with his left hand is important. His hand should face upward like this. Then he attacks my head. I change my foot position to assume a correct stance, and I parry his jo with this counter movement. Then I thrust at him. I'll explain the sixth Kumijo. He comes to thrust me. He comes to strike me. The feeling of blending is the same as in taijutsu. You do not thrust where you are supposed to, but parry his jo instead. When he comes to attack my head, I stop his movement with my jo instead of thrusting at him. Then, I do not attack where I could, but press his jo and throw him. You perform the entire movement as if executing a taijutsu movement. Next, the seventh Kumijo. He comes to attack my leg. I'll explain. He comes to attack my leg. If I take one step back, we have this much distance. However, for safety's sake, you protect your legs with your jo. He comes to thrust me. I stop his jo facing forward without thrusting him. He comes to strike me. At this point, instead of thrusting at him, you stop his movement and push him down. I'll do it again. You should perform this Kumijo as if it were a taijutsu movement. I will now execute the eighth Kumijo. The blending movement for this Kumijo is the same as in taijutsu and ken movements. He raises his sword, and I blend with his movement. I thrust at his chest and trap his jo to throw him. The ninth Kumijo. I'll explain the ninth Kumijo. I press down his thrust. He comes to attack me with a counter strike. I blend with his movement. Then I attack his right elbow and force him down by drawing my left leg to the rear. I'll do it again. I'll execute the 10th Kumijo. I start from a ken stance. From this stance, I parry his thrust with the Hasso Gaeshi. I parry it and then assume a Hasso Gaeshi stance. He comes to strike me again. I receive his jo. He then again comes to strike me. I strike his forehead by opening my body. I place my jo at his neck and press against his wrist. Then I force him down. I'll do it again. We now practice the 31 jo movements often, but there is a kata which the founder showed me before I learned those movements. I only remember half of them. From what I still remember, I made one practice method using 13 jo movements which includes 11 separate Jo movements. I do not consider these movements as kumijo, so they are not included among the kumijo series. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now we will execute paired movements to the 13 Jo kata. The movements are different from those of the kumijo. These are the individual movements of the 13 Jo kata. These are the paired movements for 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. I execute a chokutsuki as irimi against his chokutsuki. Against his thrust, I execute hayagaeshi and strike him. This is the parry against his thrust. 4, 5, 6. I'll explain numbers 4 through 6. For the fourth movement, you assume that there is an attack from behind. You turn around and parry his jo with hasogaeshi. Then you strike him, avoiding his next thrust. We will execute movements 7, 8, and 9. 7, 8, 9. And again. 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We will do 7 through 11 consecutively. 7, 8, 9. I parry his thrust. 10, 11. We'll do them again. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll do 7 through 11 consecutively. 7, 8, 9. I parry his thrust. 10, 11. 12, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.